If you are moving to Georgia, well, then you are going to have to get used to quite a few things, and one of those is the way the locals talk. In fact, depending upon where you're moving from, you may experience a whole new world of accents and local colloquialisms. So I grew up in way South Georgia in Valdosta, and upon getting married and taking on the lovely last name of Maslowski, my husband and I moved to a tiny town called Douglas, Georgia, where my husband grew up. I thought Valdosta was small. This town had a Walmart, a grocery store, and a freestanding department store, and that was about it. Although they did have this really great Mexican restaurant that I still miss. So I remember constantly introducing myself, and as soon as I would say my last name, I would hear, "You ain't from around here, are ya?" So welcoming, right? Why I can't promise you that you may not hear that, here are some things that I can promise y'all. I mean you. Y'all know what is coming first, and that's y'all, short for you all. It's such a great word, and if you've watched any of my videos, well then, you know, it's very much a part of the Southern vocabulary. And for extra emphasis, you can even use the phrase, all y'all. Don't ask. It basically means the same thing, and yet it's different. Bless your heart. Bless your heart. That's a favorite, and it's such a fun one to use. Sometimes it's actually used how it means. You know, you had a bad day. Bless your heart. Or a child falls down, scrapes their knee. Bless their heart. And then there's other kind of bless your heart, which is kind of said in an exasperating, sometimes a little bit of a condescending way. If you're ever about to do something, well, you're fixing to. I'm fixing to go to the store. Do you want anything? I'm fixing to do that right after I've finished with this. It's often used as a response when someone is asking you to do something or prodding you, to get on with it. Do you actually need to be repairing something to fixing to do something? No, that would be the wrong use of the phrase, silly. Now, I can't promise you that you will hear this in Atlanta proper, but outside of Atlanta, anywhere where there's a hint of farmland, you will hear someone refer to something as being over yonder. The phrase may be accompanied by a gesture indicating north, south, east, or west, over yonder down the road, over yonder past the cotton field. Well, no cotton fields in the Atlanta area, but over yonder towards the water tower. Not something you can hear. This phrase can be intensified by the addition of the word way, as in way over yonder. That's a far way away. Speaking of over yonder, you'll need to know that if you plan to live around the Atlanta area, you will hear OTP and ITP, meaning outside the perimeter and inside the perimeter. This refers to the perimeter loop that 285 makes all the way around Atlanta, and people will often ask you if you live ITP or OTP. Now, ITP are what we Southerners call city folk, people that want to walk to their job in restaurants. Who does that? I'm kidding. But there is quite a distinct difference between the types of neighborhoods and lifestyles that you're going to find in ITP versus OTP. And as one recent person said of OTP Alpharetta, it's about as family of four neighborhood that you can find. And I personally thought that was quite fitting. Just know that anytime you head over yonder towards ITP or dare cross into it, expect a lot of traffic. One thing that is worth going to that is ITP is the Coca-Cola headquarters. You can even visit their museum called the World of Coca-Cola, and you can taste all kinds of Coke flavors from all over the world, which is another thing that you need to know. This is Coca-Cola country, so if you go to a restaurant and ask for a soda, you're getting a Coke. And if you ask for a Pepsi, 9 times out of 10, you're getting a Coke. And don't even think about asking or saying the word pop. We don't know what that is. And while we're talking about drinks, we need to talk about tea. The only proper kind of tea we have here is the sweet kind. And when I mean sweet, I mean like syrupy, sweet, Southern tea. Of course, most restaurants will also have unsweet tea here, but if you go to a restaurant and order tea, it's going to be sweet tea. I remember traveling down to South Florida when I was younger and ordering tea at a restaurant, and I took my first big sip and discovered it was unsweet tea. And I asked the waiter for sweet tea, and he explained that they didn't have any. I was horrified. Who didn't enjoy the wonderfulness of sweet tea? And then, to my horror, most of the country, come to find out, y'all don't have sweet tea. Bless my Southern heart. It is also not uncommon to hear the words darling, sugar, honey, and sweetie from someone who is not your mom or your significant other. In fact, the waitress serving your Coke might ask you, "Know what you want for dinner, sweetie?" It's used as a term of endearment, and you may find the older generations of Southerners are more apt to use these phrases even in the workplace. And speaking of older generations, they don't necessarily need to be older to use the phrase yes ma'am and yes sir. In fact, no matter the age, it's often a sign of respect in the way most Southerners are raised to always say yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir, no matter the person's age. So don't get offended if your server answers you with a sir or ma'am, or heck, even if I or my team and I do. And finally, and last but not least, you need to know what grits and boiled peanuts are. Grits are a Southern breakfast staple and are also enjoyed at dinner with fried fish or with shrimp. Even better if you can make them cheese grits. And boiled peanuts are just that, boiled raw peanuts in the shell with a ton of salt. I mean, a ton. Like, you just keep pouring and pouring and pouring. You need that water to be very salty and briny. You can find these boiled peanuts in the can at the grocery store. Even some Southern gas stations will have like a big vat of boiled peanuts, but often these are just dumped out of a can. So true Southerners will tell you though that those are no good. You want the boiled peanuts from the side of the road at the farm stand, or better yet, just from someone selling them at the corner of a street in some small town. You think I'm joking, but this happens all the time. You're driving down the road from one town to another and you see a boiled peanut stand, and usually the sign is like handwritten on a piece of plywood, and there's a big old thing, what's it called? The pot, sitting on a propane tank, heating element, and they're selling boiled peanuts on the side of the road. Usually they're gonna come in a brown paper bag or a styrofoam cup. Those are the best kind. And for an even better culinary experience, enjoy them with a can of Coke or a bottle if you can find it. So what Southern sayings or things have you ran across once you have moved to Georgia? I would love to know what else I should add to this list. And of course, if any of y'all are thinking about making a move, well then you should definitely check out this video.